what really triggered me is I think there are two things. I think that whenever you see an attempt to create an authoritarian regime,
Come on.
a big part of that is literally the silence or the destruction of a free press, which is something that I think we see happening, I won't even say subtly, but quite aggressively and rapidly, even whether it's the lawsuits toward the New York Times or these ridiculous requirements that are being put on the media that serves at the Pentagon. All these things, because essentially it's an attempt to feed one narrative to people.
That's right.
It is to say we are going to be the arbiters of truth. What we say
is the truth.
Is the truth.
That's right.
And I think that that's something, man, that really it is the fuel for any banana republic, culture or society. And the other thing for me as a believer is then again, if somebody can, at the snap of a finger, again, eliminate the First Amendment, which protects freedom of speech, then that same group, or that same office can again enact things that harm freedom of religion.
Life can be fast-paced, strenuous, and flat-out overwhelming. Life transitions and taboo topics can make it hard to catch your breath. Welcome to Breathe, a podcast that enables you to slow down, get your bearings, and engage in real conversations where no topic is off limits. Breathe is presented by Breath of Life, hosted by David Person and speaker-director Pastor Debleaire Snell.
Boom!
We are here.
We went right into it today.
Went right into it, man. Right into it.
Bringing all the energy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
To
sir.
the Breathe podcast. Pastor Snell, Pastor Nugent, David Person. And we are glad to be here with you as always.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
and
indeed.
we're going to jump right into today's topic. As I told you at the end of last week's podcast, we're swimming in deep waters. We're doing some deep diving,
deep
all
water.
of those water metaphors.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about Jimmy Kimmel today. And I'm sure you all know who Jimmy Kimmel is.
Yeah, we
He's
do.
the late night host who was canceled indefinitely by the ABC television network over some comments that he made after the death of or the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And now, in a stunning reversal that happened pretty quickly, I think. Kimmel is back on the air. So we want to talk about just the whole story and how it connects to some of these larger issues that we've been discussing in light of Charlie Kirk's assassination. So when you heard what Jimmy Kimmel said, did it hit you as being particularly offensive or insensitive, as was claimed by the critics who were challenging him?
For me personally, let me be clear. I'm not. So I listened to his monologue pretty consistently. Yeah. And in the light of his overall conversations about, I guess, the president and a certain ideology, I thought it was actually pretty benign.
Based on what his track record has been.
Based on what his track record has been. And I thought, so again, my take on it was that essentially, the nation appropriately was at a moment of super sensitivity. And I think that, there were some powers, or specifically the White House, had, for quite some time been looking for a way or a reason to be able to exert pressure to remove him. And I just felt like the hypersensitivity of the moment and really him addressing it in any way was just kind of the cause for them to be able to exert power to have him removed. That was just kind of my take on it.
So do you think he should have stayed away from it, or do you think they just overreacted?
So I've thought for some time now that, because he's a very edgy comedian and he's very pointed. Because I think that he's a person that his conscience seems to be very irritated by this particular administration, its rhetoric, how it implements policy, and the inconsistency of things, and it comes forth in his monologue on a nightly basis in a pretty overt kind of way.
Yeah.
And so I've always wondered if he didn't dilute it, or at least, I won't even say try to be more even-handed, because I feel like politicians are going to make fun of, a comedian's going to make fun of whatever people are talking about generally as a means of being entertaining.
Yeah.
But I just kind of felt like anything that he said could be taken out of its context and kind of used in a political way to kind of serve a particular agenda. So I don't know. I just kind of felt like this was the moment where a lot of things were colliding at the same time, and it kind of gave people the impetus to do what was already in their heart.
That's what I thought. I think it was something that was in the back of their minds, just waiting to, you're
well, can I say this? It wasn't even the back. The president has said this for some time now. What was the other late night person that was already removed?
Stephen Colbert.
And so he's just he's been saying Jimmy Kimmel's next and Fallon's next, so on and so forth. So it's not even like in the back of mind.
No, you're so right. You're right.
He tweets about it pretty consistently.
When you're playing Uno and you're waiting for that draw four to hit the person next to you, and then you take it and put it on your forehead because you want them to know. Like, I got you now. Coming. I got you now. I just kind of felt like this was the moment. And everything was, in it. It's just a moment for them. I don't think there was anything special about this particular thing that was said, but because of his consistent track record, this was the moment. But it really. They awoke a giant, let me say it that way, with that removal. And it is evidenced by the fact that he's already been returned. Several people had to walk back several things because it was clear that there was pressure, but now they're saying there wasn't. Oh, no, we didn't put any pressure on. The FCC didn't do anything. The White House didn't say anything. This is completely because of his ratings. His ratings were phenomenal, so that wasn't the case. So there is that other aspect of the conversation as well, where because most are really referring to the conversation of free speech. What are we to censor? Is it because somebody doesn't agree with you ideologically, politically? Does that mean that they need to now be fired, their livelihood taken from them, and in extreme circumstances, as with Charlie Kirk, should they be? You know what I'm saying? There's that overarching umbrella of free speech has kind of risen up as well as part of this conversation.
So there's an old phrase that says "money talks," and I won't say the rest of it because there's a profanity in there.
Yeah.
But I think the money talked. After Jimmy Kimmel was removed.
Yeah.
Disney lost
billion.
I know at least $1 billion, if not more, right?
Yeah. Okay. I guess maybe
a couple of billion.
A couple of that. It's definitely $1 billion. You're right. You're right. I should have said millions. Yeah.
Between people dropping their subscriptions to Disney Plus,
Hulu.
I know many of the creative people that Disney has artistic and business relationships with started speaking out and even pulling out.
In many cases,
pulling out of some things. Whether it's promotional obligations to Disney products that they were involved in, or just even one. I know one famous actor, just said flat out, and I can't remember. I want to say it was Pablo somebody. Just flat out just said, you know what? I'm not doing any Disney stuff. Oh, no, it was a famous director, I think, who said, and I can't remember his name, but he said, I'm not going to do any more Disney projects until, until Kimmel is reinstated.
Wow.
So they started feeling the hit.
Yeah. But I just think for me, though, one of the things that, one of my thoughts was, and it could be an errant thought, but let's just say Jesus does not come, and things continue to move in a certain direction. I think we'll look back on this moment and say this is where, so you remember how like when during the pandemic when the NBA shut down and like that's how like everything changed after that.
Yeah.
I do feel like, this, and it seems to be corrected temporarily.
Right.
Could be the moment where things really change in the United States of America. Because really, I think one of the perhaps, and this is just my opinion, miscalculations of just kind of the chairman of the FCC beating his chest, the government beating its chest. I think temporarily, I think a part of the outrage and the reaction is that, man, there seems to be a government-fueled pressure, to target someone whose free speech offends them or and I think that that's going to be something that's going to create this kind of reaction. But I think if they had silently applied this pressure and didn't publicly beat their chest and say, look at what we have done, I think this actually I think it actually would be turning out a little bit differently. And I think really if Mr. Kimmel's ratings, let's just say they just stay where they are, I think he's still in trouble because they tried to, even though they're beating their chest saying, look at what we did, they then turn around and try to say it was ratings, it was a financial matter for ABC. Well, when the truth is, ABC didn't make the decision in a vacuum. They made it in response to these comments or the reaction to said comments. But this is I think the larger issue for us, right? So we talk a lot about, the First and Second Amendment, right? And I think that, when we look at, the canceling or the attempted canceling of the thing, it says the First Amendment protects 5 fundamental rights from government infringement: freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and the right to petition the government. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I think all of those things are protected by one amendment. And I think what I saw and kind of what really triggered me is I think there are 2 things. I think that whenever you see an attempt to create an authoritarian regime, a big part of that is literally the silence or the destruction of a free press, which is something that I think we see happening, I won't even say subtly, but quite aggressively and rapidly, whether it's the lawsuits toward the New York Times or these ridiculous requirements that are being put on the media that serves at the Pentagon. All these things, because essentially it's an attempt to feed one narrative to people.
That's right.
It is to say we are going to be the arbiters of truth. What we say
is the truth.
Is the truth.
That's right.
And I think that that's something, man, that really it is the fuel for any banana republic, culture or society. And the other thing for me as a believer is then again, if somebody can at the snap of a finger, again, eliminate the First Amendment, which protects freedom of speech, then that same group, or that same office can again enact things that harm freedom of religion.
Absolutely.
And I think for me, that's, probably the larger, more concerning thing.
Very much so.
Because if you can dismantle that, because I think, even we believe kind of prophetically, if you believe Revelation 13, there will be a moment where powers are going to create moments of worship where if you don't align in your worship values, if you don't worship the beast, all right, Revelation chapter 13, you can't buy or sell or engage in culture. All right, I want to go into who all the beast is, but I'm saying there is that principle in Scripture where legislated acts of worship, right, again, that really looks to dictate conscience. So what I'm saying is, I just think that for me, if you can, again, remove that protection for this matter, if there is a moment or a crisis or a series of events that says we have the right to do this for freedom of speech, then there can one day be a moment, a crisis, or a series of events that says we can do this in the areas of religion as well.
Well, I would even argue that the two are inextricably linked.
Because
worship is
it's
actually speech.
It is. Yeah.
It's a free expression.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
You know, so if you don't have free speech, you really, in some form or fashion, don't or won't have the right to freely express your religious beliefs or to,
freedom of the press.
Praise God as you see fit.
Go down the line. That's amazing. Yeah,
they're inextricably linked.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's when we look at this particular scenario, I do think that it is worth noting that there are several, just like you mentioned. I mean, Colbert went before, but there are several others, including black journalists and others who were canceled and lost their jobs, and there wasn't
Joy Reid.
Yeah,
there was not an outcry as what we have seen for Jimmy Kimmel. And so there's this interesting scenario that we find ourselves in as well.
Yeah. Now, to that point, if I can interject this, and I'm glad you said that. I think that's a point worth exploring. To that point, you could argue, Joy Reid was on MSNBC, a cable streaming channel.
Yeah.
Didn't really have the numbers
totally
or the
agree.
profile,
Totally agree.
of Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah. Understood.
But she had a very solid following and still does.
Yeah. Still does. A large following. I just look at what is happening on YouTube with several of these folks. Don Lemon is what comes to mind.
Yeah.
I mean, so he shifted. He's doing his own thing. I mean, he's literally using StreamYard, and he's got 850,000. He's nearing 1 million subscribers. My point being, there is, as Pastor Snell shared, there has been this subtle shift already. A lot of the building blocks are kind of put in place. This one, I think they did mishandled.
Yep.
But it stands to reason that because of what we've already seen, they may come back again, just in a different way.
Yeah.
And they may be more successful this time.
Yeah.
But I do also think that it was worth noting that we didn't see the same outcry for the others.
Yeah.
Even if their stature was is not as prominent as Jimmy Kimmel's, there was a lot of outpouring and support.
Oh, yeah.
And we did not see that for some of the others who went through the same thing.
Yeah, and I just think the other thing is it is the selective application. You know what I'm saying, of this. Like I'm trying to think of the anchor is escaping me now, who said some horrifying things about homeless people in the United States.
The Fox morning show news anchor. I don't remember the guy's name.
Yeah, that talked about how they should be jailed or killed and so on and so forth. And I'm just like, well, so, okay, if there is a standard, right? How is a late night comedian targeted, but you actually have a news person, someone that is given the sacred, a little bit more of a sacred trust in some ways. So I just think that, whenever that can be applied selectively, I think, for all of us as Americans, it is a cause for concern. And, and just for me as a believer, again, the person who's,
you see that,
who kind of, that all falls under that umbrella, that First Amendment, it just kind of causes me concern as well.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're out of time. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, I just think, I don't ever call people into paranoia or fearfulness, but I think it's time for us to be attentive. I think we need to be watchful. Yeah. I know it's kind of a political buzzword right now. We need to be woke. We need to keep our lamps trimmed and burning. Because I do think that, prophetically, I think the last movements are going to be really rapid. I think that, I think this is the other thing that I think that is coming to being or becoming really clear. There are a lot of things that are happening right now that people assume are illegal, and in some ways, some people think they're unconstitutional. But I think that there are just certain things in the way the office of the presidency works. There are certain things that were not illegal. They were just norms, and it was under the expectation that you're going to always have a person of a certain character in office. And I think what you're seeing is those norms, right, that are being just eviscerated in some ways, shapes and forms. I think it's just showing us how quickly things can change and will change And I just think that, I just think we just need to be aware and paying attention, because I think that, when the power of the state wields its authority, I think there are very few things that are unaffected, or entities or companies that are unaffected by it. And I think the church is in that same line as well. Because I just think that if you can, because I think the other thing is, I just wonder if that can happen to Jimmy Kimmel, what can happen to the Breathe podcast?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What can happen to anybody?
Yeah.
That, and again, let me be clear, because our stuff is not partisan. Our goal is just to, clearly have a cultural conversation with a biblical worldview,
right? Not
espousing any particular party. But I just think that, I was kind of really looking at it and saying, okay, if that's kind of where we're heading, everybody, that may have a dissenting point of view can be subject to a certain penalty.
And theoretically, the FCC has limited power, at least at this point. Mm-hmm. They don't regulate, anything that's not licensed and broadcast.
Yeah.
But things can change.
Yeah,
which goes to your point.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I was going to say, we had been in this series talking about something or nothing. This family is something.
Yeah, this is something.
And we need to sit up.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
And if it shouldn't cause you to necessarily be in fear, it should cause you to go back into the Word, go back into your prayer closet, and go deeper with the man Jesus Christ. I think that's the only solution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, folks, we're out of time, but we hope and pray that you will reflect on these things, and as both of these men have said, go deeper. Go deeper and pay attention. Be spiritually woke.
Yeah,
there we go.
Spiritually woke.
Spiritually woke. And while you're doing that, stop, pray, and breathe.
Breathe is produced by David Person for Breath of Life. Executive producer is Debleaire Snell, and sound engineer is Kirk Nugent. Audio episodes of Breathe can be found on Apple, Spotify, or Google podcast platforms. For video episodes and extra content, check out the Breath of Life YouTube channel. Breath of Life is faith-based content, resources, and programs from a contemporary urban perspective for those looking for hope and guidance. We believe that every breath we take is a testimony that God is consistent, that He loves us, and has a plan for our lives.